Thank you so much for being
You're
here.
welcome.
Good. I'm so excited. So I was just sharing that this for me feels like such a really wonderful time to bring in a bit of a bright light into people's day by having this conversation with you. And I was just saying for people who are not familiar, I know a lot of people in my circle are already know you and love you, and we're really excited to hear that you were going to be chatting with me today because your work has really had a big impact for a lot of people. And I was hoping that you could just share a little bit about your story and what has helped you through everything that you've been through.
Okay, so I became a mum 3 years ago, three and a bit years ago, May 2016. Had a kind of really, now I look back, really easy journey into becoming a mum. We tried for about 9 or 10 months. I fell pregnant. That felt like a long time, but it obviously wasn't a long time in the grand scheme of things. And our son Teddy was born in May 2016, and the night after he was born, he fell really sick in the night, and he was subsequently transferred to a neonatal unit, where he lived for 3 days before he passed away. Obviously, that was kind of like the beginning of our story now, and then sort of what happened with what we decided to do with regards to sort of fundraising for the unit who looked after Teddy. And I, the following year, began writing about what it was like to lose a child, and what it was like to have everything, going really well in your life, and you feel like you're kind of nailing it, because I had, I enjoyed my job, I had a great husband, we were doing up our house, we got married the year before, we fell pregnant, we had Teddy, and then boom. And I honestly didn't know how to get back up from that. I didn't see it coming, because none of us see anything like that coming, and we don't think it happens to us, we think it happens to other people. And I just started writing about my experience, our experience, because I think I'm really aware and appreciative of the fact that our experience might not be the same, or in any way the same as someone else's loss. But I think when the outcome is the same, in as much as you lose a child or a pregnancy, then more often than not, there are a real crossover in emotions and feelings, and we feel similarly about a lot of things. I mean, it might not be exactly the same, but I've found from speaking to lots of parents, mums and dads, that the feeling is, the kind of emotions that we go through and the feelings are really similar. And I just began, writing about them and being really honest about how I felt. And actually then it just kind of snowballed, and then it wasn't ever really my plan to do anything more than write a little bit of a blog. And then the following year I was asked to write a book, and was signed by a publisher, and then last year Ask Me His Name, which is the title of my book, was published in September, and it did incredibly well here in the UK. It made it onto the Sunday Times bestseller list, which is a bit like our version of New York Times, bestsellers.
That's amazing.
And I was kind of blown away, because I didn't think when I was writing it that anybody would really, really want to read about it. I thought people would be too scared to read about the subject, because some people are.
Totally. That's what I was just thinking when you were saying that really it had that kind of response and that kind of impact, because that is a topic that most people's natural reaction is to really distance from. Yeah. So that's amazing.
And, I think all the time that I was talking about the book before it came out, and all the time that I was spending speaking to groups of people at events or whatever, I never sort of spoke about it as, read this book if you've lost a baby. My stance was, please read this book if you haven't lost a baby. Please read it, because we never know when that might happen to our friend, or our
Absolutely.
sister, or the lady who lives across the road, or the lady we sit next to at work. We don't know when that's going to happen, or when we're going to start that conversation, or do you have any children, or how many children do you have, or don't you want any children then? And we're going to get an answer that we don't expect. And
Yeah.
that, for
Yeah.
me, it was about opening up that conversation to everybody. Because
That's amazing.
the people who it's already happened to, it's too late for us because we're already in it. So we're comfortable with having that conversation now because we live it every day. It's everyone else, I really felt I wanted to kind of, hold their hand and say, look, it's okay. You don't need to be scared of me. This is what happened, and I really want to talk about it, and that's fine.
Yes, yes. And that was really part of the driving force for me as well. After I went through my experience and I started really moving into this work, I remember just thinking, we need to talk about this as a culture, because you have that whole what to expect when you're expecting, and then you land in this place where it feels like there is nothing and no one but you.
Yeah. And it's so, I think that is the resounding message that I have got from speaking to women. Like when the book came out, I did kind of a little bit of a tour of events, and lots of people came and they shared their stories with me, and it was wonderful. But the message that I kept getting from people was, I feel really isolated, and I have felt really isolated, and reading your book has made me feel less alone. And that's a good thing, if we can come together and we can share our stories and just put our hands up and say, yeah, I feel like that too. It brings us together, doesn't it? And then we feel stronger.
It is. And I think especially as women, this is such a missing part of so many women's experience that just ends up existing on the fringe on all kinds of things, and how that impacts in our relationships and our friendships and with our coworkers and all of the places where these experiences intersect and disconnect.
Yeah. And I think it's so important that, we all talk, not just the people who it's happened to, everybody, because I really love it now, actually, when I get people write to me and they say, I read your book, or I followed you on Instagram, and I've read a few of your blogs, and I was talking to my new neighbour today, and it turns out she lost her daughter last year, and they've just moved in, and had I not read your stuff, I would not have known what to say to her. But
that's right.
You made me realise that I could just talk to her and be normal about it, and now we're getting on really well, and we're good friends, and that for me is like amazing, because if we can keep doing that, none of us need to ever feel awkward about it.
Totally.
If Teddy were here, he would be physically here, and I would want to talk about him. So just because he lived and he died, for me, it's no different. As a mother, I want to acknowledge that he was here and talk about him.
That's right. That's right. And so I have a question for you. So when you think back, especially to some of those earlier times for you and some of those darkest times for you, what was it what did you grab onto as a lifeline? What helped you through that?
Hang on a second.
Sure. If people have not already checked out,
here we go. Here's my lifeline.
That's hilarious.
This is Boris.
And who is this?
This is Boris. Not the Boris that's been in the news a lot over here at the moment, but this is Boris. And he is squidgy. So we had Boris as we got him as a puppy the year before Teddy was born. And I'd always wanted a pug because my auntie was kept pugs. And actually, I have to say, when we came back from hospital, he was about just over a year at the time, coming home to something who wanted to, love me. He was like, and for me, I've always grown up in a house full of pets, animals. My mum's always kept lots of animals, and so we've got our cat as well, and they really make it a home. And he was a real lifeline. Like, he was more often than not, when I was still sort of on maternity leave from my job, he was the reason that I got up in the morning, because, and I think if you speak to a lot of people about grief, whether they've lost, you know, a spouse or a child, or, you know, somebody who is very significant in their life, I think pets and animals, they're so healing. They're such healing little souls. And I had to get up every morning, even if I didn't feel like it, because he wanted his breakfast, and he would get at me if I, you know, and I had to get out every day and get fresh air because he wanted to have a walk. And so even on those days when I just wanted to close the front door and shut the shutters and shut the world out, he would be sitting there looking at me like, come on then, are we going to go? And actually, I think he was more of a lifeline than I realised at the time. I just thought, you know, I was going through the motions of looking after him and all the rest of it, but actually, he was ace.
Well, and I so relate to that, because when I think of truly some of the best decisions that I made after I lost my little girl, really getting my dog was one of the biggest things, because the house was so excruciatingly quiet after I lost her. So painfully quiet. And right, it's just you and sometimes your own screams and nothing but silence so much of the time. And for me, that's when I was like, you know what? I've always wanted a Yorkie for no logical reason. I always want a Yorkie. And I'm like, I'm going to get this dog. And, you know, and it was funny because the other thing that I really noticed is during those times when, you know, sometimes people say, let me know if there's anything I can do. But then, like, there's a lot of people that you just don't hear from again because they don't know what to say to you. They don't know how to be around you. And I remember I literally had a girlfriend at the time, one of my best friends forever and ever, that literally said to me, I don't know how to be around you right now. And the truth was, she wasn't being around me right now. She like vanished for the hills. And so I so appreciated on one hand her honesty, but that I think is the reality that a lot of us experience and sometimes can't even put our finger on, of like, what is going on in my circle right now? And so for me to have my little tiny fur ball that on one hand I could hold and love and would like just always be happy, right, was really so huge for me. And that I didn't have to make her feel better about what I was going through. I didn't have to help her out with what to say to me. I didn't have to work. There was no, you're able to just receive.
There's some really lovely comments coming in at the bottom. I don't know if you can see. One lady called Lucy commented a minute ago, and she said that her father died last month and that they just got a puppy, and that it's giving them, she used a really important word, purpose. Because that's what I've written about that in the book. And I don't know how you felt when you lost your daughter, but I felt like my purpose, my thing that I'd been building up to, being a mum, was vanished. It was gone. And it is that sense of purpose of, right, I've got to, like you just said, I've got to look after this little thing. And other than feeding and walking and cuddles, they're not going to expect anything back from me emotionally. They're not going to ask me any difficult questions. They're not going to want to get in a deep discussion with me about how I'm feeling that day. They're just going to let me cry big tears into their head if I need to, and cheer me up, or do something. I mean, Boris just does the most hilarious things all the time. I'm constantly laughing at him. And it's really nice to see people's comments coming through saying that they also got a dog, or they got a puppy, or they got a cat. I think, you know, it's brilliant. And I think it's, like you said, that silence when you come into a house. And the silence is like deafening. I don't know if you felt that, but it was like closing in around me.
Excruciating.
And, you know, when my husband went back to work, it was great to have the animals around, because, you know, they're always here. I mean, they're here now. The cat's lying over there. Boris is right here in his bed. You know, they're always there. I love it.
Well, and I just saw a comment too that said that really one of the messages that she's got from the people around her is that she's wrong to be feeling the depths of what she's feeling, that she's somehow wrong to be impacted in the way that she is. And I think that's, you know, sometimes what these little furry creatures do for us is they don't give us any of that kind of crap, right?
Yeah.
Like there's none of that, and it just becomes this really safe place.
Yeah.
And that's why I really love when I look at your site and I see the work that you've been doing. So much, it looks like from the outside anyways, has also literally been about creating a safe place and a
Oh
sanctuary
yeah, 100%.
for yourself as you move through this.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit? I'm just curious because I know that your work is so beautiful and so inspiring. What would be, though, just a couple really practical, easy things that people could do to make their space feel more nourishing, more healing, to make their little cocoon an even more comfy place to be?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm just going to start by saying I'm not a professional in this capacity whatsoever. I don't have any interior qualifications. I'm not a designer. That's not what I do. I just love it. And I just love doing stuff at home. And I have a real passion for making house at home, something I've got from my mum. And when Teddy died and we came home, I suddenly had all this space stretching out in front of me. This, because in the UK, I don't know if you know this, but when you leave on maternity leave, your rights are protected. So if you leave on that maternity date and you are on your maternity leave, regardless of what happens, you are still entitled to your full maternity leave and pay. So I was working for L'Oreal at the time, based in London, and I was entitled to my full year off work, and the same that they would have paid me had Teddy been
That's
here.
amazing. That's amazing.
And actually, I mean, it was wonderful in many ways because it gave me no financial pressure to have to get back to normal, whatever that is. And I just thought, right, okay, it's brilliant in one sense because I've got this time off and I can start to heal, and I don't really want to see anyone at the moment, and I just want to get my head and my heart around what the hell has just happened. But at the same time, once my husband Nico went back to work, and my mum could only be here so much, or my friends would only come so much, and then, you know, they've got busy lives or children or jobs. And there were times when I thought, okay, and this is before I'd started writing, I've got all this time to myself. I'm going to do something that I love. I'm going to do something that I've done it in the house since we'd moved in. I think we'd been in it about 2 years at that point. I'm going to do something that I've never had enough time to do enough of. And now I have all the time in the world. And so I just started kind of room by room. I went through the rooms and I thought, right, what don't I like in here? What's been bugging me in here that I'm like, oh, I need to get that done, but I've never done it because I'm always rushing around like a headless chicken. And I started making more things for the house. So that for me was a real creative outlet. I've always been quite into sewing and doing things like that anyway. So, you know, I made some new blinds, made some new cushions for the sofa. I actually went on a couple of courses, like I learned to make lampshades and stuff like that, and like just things that I wanted to change in here. And then if you can hear Boris snoring, by the way, it's getting louder and louder.
I can hear Boris snoring.
It's like, we went on a really early walk because it's really warm here at the moment. And so his snoring is through the roof. So anyway.
It's a nice little hum.
I know, it's like a background noise. I just began kind of doing what I loved. And I was painting stuff and, you know, ripping stuff out and redoing it and it just became this, oh, now I'm going to do this, now I'm going to do this. And it, you know, and I really enjoyed it. And so for me, I think to make your house a sanctuary for you, it's going to be different for all of us.
Well, and I'm wondering if I can just pause you for a second now, because I feel like you're saying so many important things, and I almost just want to highlight for people, because, you know, when I hear you describe even this process of finding somewhere to get it out, right? Finding somewhere to kind of get some of that energy out, some of that angst out. I really believe, and for me as a psychotherapist, I absolutely believe that, grief and heartbreak are absolutely physical experiences.
100.
We carry all of that in our bodies. We carry all of that on our shoulders. We carry all of that everywhere. And so, when I hear you describing even just kind of ripping apart things and banging things together and having this kind of release in some
Yeah.
ways, I think even when we're not tangibly thinking that this is what we're doing, you're doing this. You're processing all of that stuff through your
Yeah.
system.
And I think
Yeah.
for me, it was doing stuff like that in the house. Even my husband, I mean, he's always been sort of big on doing things in the garden, but he was like, right, what can we do? What do we need to do in here? And we kind of did it as a team. We did it together.
Nice. Nice.
So there were lots of things that he did as well. He made a table. He built our dining room table about 2 months after Teddy died because he wanted to build something that we would have in the house
Nice.
sort of forever. But you're so right. I think the physical element, I know for my husband as well, a big part for him was getting out and doing exercise again. So he's really into running. He began cycling more, and I think he needed to get that physical release frustration out. Yeah, and a lot of friends I know who've been through loss of a child have done similar with kind of exercise, and I think running and things like that are really cathartic for people, aren't they?
Oh, it's true. I remember, and this is not my best self, but I remember being like, if I don't go for a run today, I'm going to lose it and punch somebody in the parking lot somewhere. Like, I am just this raw nerve
Yeah.
of so much pain and upset, and it's got to get out somewhere.
Yeah.
Just does. And it's funny, I'm almost kind of laughing a little bit as I'm hearing you describe, that piece around, your husband also really wanting to take on projects and stuff too, because what I'm thinking of is the number of couples or women that I've spoken to who have told me about how their partners have really moved into these big renovation projects, she's almost wanting to have a conversation with him and kind of move through their experience together in that way. And often he's wanting to like rebuild the basement downstairs and, renovate these rooms in the house.
Yeah.
And so, I love, and I really just want to, hold this for a second, that really you and your partner were able to find something that you were able to be side by side on, that didn't necessarily mean always talking about it, that didn't necessarily mean really unpacking all of those feelings together, but really was really moving through side by side.
Yeah,
and giving each other some space to do that differently some days too.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I actually really enjoyed that kind of process of building something, doing something together, because I think, it does bring you closer, because inevitably there's the bickering. Just because we were grieving for Teddy, it didn't mean we weren't a normal couple. Like, there's me, control freak, saying, don't do it like that, do it like this. And he's going, no, I'll do it this way. So, it's constant, because that's what it's like, isn't it? But yeah, now I think back, we did an incredible amount of that, and I'm really grateful that we were able to do it together.
That's really neat. Yeah, and I think that's beautiful. And so when you were saying that really those couple ideas of how people could start to make their own house that little bit of a sanctuary for themselves.
Yeah, so I think it means something different to everybody, because what I love and makes me feel great and calm might not be for everyone. But I think personally, for me, having things in my house that I have had some contribution to, whether that be because I made it, or because I painted it, or because I did something to make it look a bit better, or that for me, I think it's a very, very rewarding kind of process to go through, and so it's then very rewarding to have that in your house and have it around you. And I think pieces that you've made or created or refurbished then kind of have like a good energy around them, because you've put so much love and care and attention into them, that I feel like for me that's really helped me have pieces around my house that I really appreciate, and it makes for quite a nice vibe in the house, like quite a nice you know, even if it's just like I've gone to an antiques market and I've scurried around looking for something that I wanted and I found it and I've added it onto a shelf, and you know, it makes me happy when I look at it. And I think there's an Instagram hashtag that I love to follow and look at, and it's Style It Happy. And it just means so many things to so many different people, because it's basically styling your room or whatever in a way that makes you feel happy, it makes you feel calm. So yeah, for me it's those kind of one-off pieces, those things that I've done or made. And I personally feel that in a time of turbulence, and when your mind might be quite fractious, or you're quite angry or sad or whatever it is, it's really helped me having quite calming colours in the house.
Yeah.
Because it I just feel like it makes me feel more peaceful, more when things are light and bright and airy and there's like a nice soft calming color palette. I know that in the interior sense it's it's very classic and timeless to do that, because it will obviously last a lot longer, and you're never going to go, oh god, I wish I hadn't painted that bright red, you know.
Right. You're never going to get sick of that.
Exactly. And I think for me it's quite lucky that that kind of style is sort of in fashion at the moment now anyway. Well, it is over here, I'm assuming in the States as well.
It's true.
But yeah, I find that when I go into a room and it has a lovely calming colour palette, not even necessarily at my house, at a friend's house or wherever I am, it instantly makes me think, oh, I want to sit here. I want to pull up a chair. I want to have a drink, read a book. You know, it's nice and it makes me feel nice. And that, I think, is a sanctuary, isn't it? That kind of feeling that wraps itself around you makes you want to spend more time there. And my friends, a lot of my friends have houses like that as well. And I think, oh, you've done a really nice job. Like, this is really lovely. So that would kind of be for me, you know, that sort of colour palette. But that might not be what calms everyone. Some other people say, I want to be surrounded by happy things. Maybe they've travelled a lot, and to them it's picking out things from their travels and surrounding themselves with that, because that gives off that good energy for them, and it makes them think of all those happy times, and it makes them think of all the places that they've been in the world. So yeah, I think styling your home with the things that make you happiest, rather than the things you feel like you should have there.
And sorry to jump in there, but I'm just really, you know, what I really take from that I think is so important is this idea of really checking in with yourself about how does that feel for you, right? Because really, I believe that nothing is neutral, right? Nothing around us is completely neutral. Nothing we do is neutral, right? Nothing. Everything either is adding something, bringing something into us, or kind of depleting something from us in some way or form. And so I just really love that idea of really saying, how does that space feel for you to be in it? What are those colors, or what are those things that bring in just those little doses of goodness, or a little bit of soothing, or a little bit of sweetness, or a little bit of calm? What are those things? Because really for me, you know, I know, you know, as much as my office is chaos most of the time, because that's kind of my process for things, I know I feel different when it's clean. Right? There's just a different ease that happens.
And it's that whole, you know, that whole old saying, tidy desk, tidy mind, you know, when you're at work. It really is like that in the house. I find that when we've just done a big renovation, and upstairs we've had boxes, and I think particularly I find as a woman, you kind of want to make everything, I want to make everything perfect. I've got this thing where I'm like, well, I can do that, and I'll do that, and I'll do everything.
Or I should be able to, or I should be able to get that done.
And actually when you can't, we then feel really disappointed in ourselves. And I think after Teddy died, what I learned is that I just had to let go of all that expectation that I had of myself and what I was capable of doing, because I wasn't capable of much. And that actually I just had to say, okay, today I'm going to get out in the garden and I'm going to dig this over, and that will be really nice, because I'll go outside and I'll do it, and have got something done, and it will also be good for up here because I'm going to be outside. And I would just do that, or I would make little lists on my phone of things that I wanted to achieve. I found journaling really helpful as well. My friend Kelly has an account called The Bee's Knees. I've written about it in my book, and I use her journals every evening. It's like a reflection journal of what felt good that day, what you managed to do that day,
Nice.
what your goal is for tomorrow, like what you would like to do. And then there's self-care stuff in there as well, like how much water did you drink, or did you take 5 minutes to yourself to not be looking at your phone, or doing something mindful for yourself. And that, I think, just reflecting on my day, and I've kept all my journals over the last 2.5 years. So it's really interesting to look back on them and see kind of on paper where I was at then, to what I write now. It's really nice, actually, because you think you're not getting very far, and you think you're not sort of feeling better and getting more back to the person that you miss. But actually, when you look, the difference, it's like, wow, I have heard people say, once you lose somebody, like you lose a child, it's going to ruin your life forever. I've read things like that. My life will never be the same. Yeah, my life will never be the same. Obviously, my life is never going to be the same without Teddy, because it's taken a totally different path. But I don't believe that my life's going to be miserable forever, because I know that it's not. Because I wake up some days and I think, I've got loads to look forward to today. Today's going to be a great day. And actually, I think, if anything now, I appreciate the good days, those extremes of feelings. I feel them more than I've ever felt them before. So when I'm happy, I'm really happy. And I'm really grateful that I feel happy. And actually, when I'm sad, I'm not scared of feeling that sad anymore, because I've already walked through the fire. Like, I've walked through the absolute worst of it, and I've come out the other side. And so
I have a question for you. So, because, for me, that's very much the direction that I have, pushed myself to go in many ways, to say, even though there was a time in my life where I could not conceive of what my life could possibly look like without my daughter and being okay again.
Yeah.
For me, I remember truly making the decision of saying one day, it just kind of hit me, where I was like, if I stay in this place of just sharp and angry and feeling broken, that is going to be the story that's told about my little girl.
Yeah.
That is going to be how other people in my life know my daughter.
Yeah.
And so, I think that one of the things that really holds a lot of women and parents back from that idea of allowing themselves to feel that joy again that you talk about, or allow themselves to feel that, goodness around them again, is it almost feels like betrayal to their little one that they lost.
Yeah.
It almost feels like they're being a bad mom.
Like you have guilt.
Because that guilt that, what is wrong with me, that I would be able to go and be happy in my life again when my child's not here. So can I ask, what helped you to kind of untangle from that feeling for you, if you relate to that at all?
Well, I think I've written about this a lot, and I've written about it in blogs, and I've written a whole section in my book, and I've called it a different kind of mum guilt. And that is because I hear all of my friends whose children are here talking about mum guilt. I feel guilty because I go to work. I feel guilty because a plethora of different things. And I kept sort of feeling, it was probably maybe a year or so after Teddy died, and I started kind of getting back into the land of the living and going to more things again and not being afraid to go to social events. But then I found myself going to them and feeling really guilty because I had a glass of wine in my hand, because I was laughing, because I've always been a bit of a joker. If you watch my Instagram stories, that's just like all I do is crack really bad jokes. But that's been my whole that's where I'm at in our friendship group. I'm that person that is constantly taking the mick out of everyone else, and I have 2 older brothers, so that's been my way. And I was finding myself back in these social situations, and I didn't know how to be. I didn't know how to be me, because me was a joker. and actually, would other people be looking at me thinking, oh, look at Elle, she's all right now, isn't she? She seems fine now. She's just back to her old self. And actually, as you will know, when you lose a child or you lose somebody significant in your life, that person, that baby, is not ever any further than the next thought in your mind. You could be doing anything. I could be having the time of my life, but the next thought just creeping over in my mind, just ticking over, is Teddy, and my son died. And not in a sad way, but he's just there. He's always with me, as if he would be if he was here.
That's right.
And so then what I found is this conflict in my mind of, okay, I'm having a really great time here and I'm really enjoying seeing my friends and being around them, but oh my God, I'm the worst person in the world. I shouldn't be feeling like this. My son died.
That's right.
What is going on? And it was horrible. And I actually just found that it was kind of more of a self-reassurance thing, is that I had to, when I was in those situations, sort of say to myself inwardly, no, you're not. You're not a bad person. You're just having a glass of wine. You're just having a good time with your friends. This is what healing looks like. You need to laugh. Laughter is really important. And I just found that the more things that I went to, and it was a bit like ripping off a plaster, you know, the more I kind of put myself through that stomach lurching, oh God, I shouldn't be doing this. With time, it just got easier, and it doesn't mean that Teddy's still not there. He's like there all the time. Yeah. But it doesn't make me want to get mad at myself. It doesn't make me want to be like, you're a really bad person because you should be having a laugh. You know, it just becomes, and I don't know if you found that, but it just became easier. And I think the key is, don't beat yourself up about that feeling. Don't go, oh God, it's going to feel like this every time, and I must be really angry at myself because I feel like this. Just sit with the feeling and be comfortable with sitting with that feeling, that it's going to feel a bit guilty and a bit crap. And then actually next time we'll probably creep back a little bit less, and then next time a little bit less. And do you see what I mean? And I think we're all so hard on ourselves, and then we go, oh, I felt like that, I must never do it again. No, you've got to push through it, you know.
Or I felt like this, and then that means that it's wrong, or that means that I shouldn't be allowing myself to laugh or have a glass of wine, and this is my signal that I'm being a bad mom.
Yeah.
And really, you know, for me, I had to really tell myself, I'm doing this for her.
Yeah.
I'm going to let myself go and laugh for her, because I believe that that's what she would want for me, right? Because that's what I would want for her.
Yeah.
Had I been the one to go first, I would not want her life to become this shell of a shrine of her mourning for me for the rest of time. I would want her to experience her life again. So to me, you know, that kind of became how I pushed myself to go out there and have the wine and laugh and allow myself to say yes to things.
And it's really important. And I think once you realize that, I don't know how you found, but it's quite invigorating, it's quite freeing, to be like, yeah, I will come and I'm gonna have a really good time, you know. It makes you think, yeah, I'm gonna embrace that. And actually, when I feel happy now, rather than feeling guilty, I'm gonna hold on to that happy feeling, and I'm just gonna like enjoy it and not hate myself for it, because we all deserve to feel like that. And I think especially when you've been through something awful, you really deserve to feel happy. Like, you deserve to really feel that happiness.
It's survival.
Yeah.
So if I can ask, Elle, what would be, you know, one thing that you would really want to say to someone who's going through a hard time in their world right now? Maybe the one thing that you would really want them to take out of this or to know?
This is always such a tricky question. This is a question I've got asked a lot since the book, and I'm always really reluctant kind of answer it in many ways because I'm not a professional. Okay, I know I keep saying this, you are, but I'm not a professional. I've never kind of set myself up to be, well, this is what we should all think or feel, or this is. But if I had to say something I wanted somebody to know, it would be that you are not on your own. You are not on your own. And it might feel like it in this moment. You might feel that you are the only person that this has ever happened to, that has ever felt like this. And your family don't understand, and your friends don't understand, and nobody knows what's going on up here or in here. But there are thousands of us, millions of us, women and men who have experienced a loss and feelings and emotions, maybe not identical to yours, but really similar, and will be feeling those emotions just as you're feeling them. And I think that makes it less scary. For me, I found it so comforting to know that there were other people who got it, who just got it. And I didn't actually, those friends who've lost children, sometimes when I'm with them, like, we don't have to say that much because it's just like, yeah, you get it.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I think knowing that you're not on your own is human nature. We search for that commonality. We want to. We've got an illness. We want to find somebody else who's got that illness, who's come through it. And I don't think child loss is any different. I love personally following accounts and connecting with parents who are much further along in their loss than I am, because it kind of gives me a glimpse into the future of what my life could be like, and actually how I can move forward, not on, move forward with it. And that gives you an incredible amount of hope. And I think if you've got hope that tomorrow's going to wake up, you're going to wake up and it might feel a little bit better. And the next day or the next week, it might feel a bit better because you've got all these other people walking beside you and holding your hands. It's really powerful, I think.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And can I ask, is there, can you tell me just a little bit about your book and where people find that if they're not already familiar?
Okay, so at the moment, Ask Me His Name is a story. It's my story. It's from the moment I kind of really, there's a little bit about who I am at the beginning. But so when we decided to become parents, to having Teddy, to losing Teddy, and the majority of the book, so chapter 4 to the end of the book, chapter 18, is all about the after. So it's very much about what do you do when life takes all your cards and throws them up in the air and goes, there you go, deal with that. What did you do? What did we do? What did I do? And what did I found that helped? There's also a section in the book written by my family and friends. There's a section written by my husband, which I think is really important, by my mum, by my sister-in-law, and by one of my friends. And I think that's, if you've not lost a child, or if you're the person that's in any of those positions to the person who's lost a baby, those are probably quite interesting to read, because I think there'll be a lot of crossovers in emotion of how you feel you can or can't support that person. Ask Me His Name was published in hardback last September. It came out in paperback in February, beginning of March. It was just before Mother's Day in the UK, so we have a paperback and a hardback version. At the moment, if you're in the UK, you can buy it in all of our bookshops, in online on Amazon. I think Amazon UK do international delivery now. I'm pretty sure they do, because I've been getting lots of people write to me from Australia, America, Dubai, all over the world, Singapore, telling me that they've had my book delivered and that they've read it, which is wonderful. It's really lovely. So I think there are a lot of sort of third-party sellers now. So although it's not been published in the States, I mean, there's still time if anyone influential is watching this. It's not been published directly in the States. You can get hold of it.
Very cool.
And you can also download it. It's available as an ebook on Amazon, and I'm about to record an audiobook over the summer. So hopefully that will be coming out towards the end of the autumn, which will be in line with Baby Loss Awareness Week in October. So hopefully we will get the audiobook out before then. It was something I was quite worried about doing, because I didn't know whether I could read those words back and out loud. That makes total sense to you. But now I feel like I'm in a place that I can do it. So that's what I'm going to do.
Nice. That's amazing. Thank you so much for all that you do, Elle. It's been incredible to just get to hear a little bit more.
No, thank you for asking me. I was really pleased when your email popped into my inbox. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And how do people stay connected with you? How do they find you if they're not in your circle already?
Okay, so I have a website. So my blog is featheringtheemptynest.co.uk. So all one word, .co.uk. And that feeds through from my Instagram as well. I don't do Twitter and Facebook and all of that stuff, because I just find it becomes too much to cope with doing all the channels. So I'm Instagram, and I have my website. And obviously the book, or there's contact form on my website. So if you want to get in touch, send me an email, tell me your story. If you want to talk about anything, then yeah, I'm always there. And I don't have anybody working for me or doing anything for me. It's just me. I will pick up my emails and I will answer you. So I hope that helps.
Lovely. Lovely. Thank you so much, Elle. And thank you to everyone who's been a part of this conversation with us today. I would love to hear from you, to let me know what stood out most to you today, or if you have questions that you'd maybe like to hear a little bit more about at another time. I'm at Love April and lovelostproject.com. And thank you so much, Elle.
No,
I'll see you next time.
Thank you, April. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care. Goodbye, Boris. Hope you're having a good nap.
Yes.